Hello everyone, this is Janet from Mixed Media Mama. Thank you for coming back, and I am so excited to showcase this brand new journal. The cover is from Elizabeth Craft Design. It's one of their famous brand new journal covers, and it is a dusty teal, if I remember right. And it is just fabulous. And of course, knowing me, I have to grunge it up. But it is just beautiful. This is the extra large passport size. And I'm going to use Devid's brand new collection, Beautifully Worn. All of the dies, stamps, papers, rub-ons. Yes, that's one of my favorites is rub-ons. But let's just jump right on in and I'll show you. The first thing that I did is that the passport, the extra large passport, I believe this is approximately, let me see, it is approximately 5-ish by 6 and a fourth. But what I did is that I scored on either side of the elastic for about, I'd say probably 3/4 of an inch. And of course I sewed. These journal covers, all the Elizabeth Craft journal covers, are so easy to put through a sewing machine. To make this outside, I loved it. It is very easy. My sewing machine did not have any problem going through this faux leather. It's just really nice. So first of all, I used one of Devid's new stencils. And as you can see, it's just one. This is one, I call it a damask, and I'm not really sure if that's what it is called, but I just took a portion of the stencil. And now all of these stencils are a little bit wider, and they are made that way in width to cover the full page of the extra large square. And I absolutely love that. That was just a genius idea. But I took part of the stencil, embossed it, used glazes. Oh, love it. And of course, I accented it with one of the stamps. But before that, the background, I just used some oxide inks and whatever colors. And I think I probably used, I love the blues and the grays and the oxides. Use whatever you have. But that is how I made that. And I'm going to bring it up and so you can kind of see the glazes. Of course, I wanted to have a pop. I don't know if you can tell, but this area I use purple. Purple is one of my favorites. And of course, I just use the greens, a little bit of yellows or oranges, and then the purples. It's probably really super dark for you, but videos just don't do things justice. Maybe you could see it there. I'm going to put, there we go. There we go. So let's just jump right on in. Things are folding and folding. This one, I wanted to have some things peeking out. And so it really is a very short journal. But the purpose of this journal is to showcase some really unique things. I showed how to use the rub-ons in a variety of ways. I showed using leftovers that you have on your desk or your creative space to make such a cluster and not to cut out anymore. Just to use those scraps and using that cluster to make a pocket. And so you will see that in here. First of all, this, and I'm going to bring it up just a little bit more. There we go. First of all is this beautiful, oh my gosh, I just love this all around circle die. Love it. Great, so much fun. I am going to really love that die. Just cut it out onto the soft finish cardstock from Elizabeth Craft, and then I used a lot of the glazes in whatever color scheme I wanted. I saved the bits that came out, and then I cut some more out of David's new paper pack just to give some visual texture. And then of course a couple, and stamped on some, used this die circle to cut out the face. And here's part of his ephemera pack too. It just, and of course that I glued on top of some plastic packaging that I just used some alcohol inks, sewed that on to the page, and made it into a nice little tuck spot. So you can see that to utilize these circles, just put it on some packaging, some acetate or whatever you have, and then sew it on. If you're not a sewer, it will stay on with some really good bookbinding glue, or maybe use a stapler. I've used that many times also. The back is just ink. I used a couple of rusty, a really light, of course, one of David's stencils, the Chevron one, some vintage photo, and a really light-handed of the Rusty Hinge oxide. Used some droplets of water and dried it, and I did that on both covers, the front and the back, just to give it some visual texture if I didn't have too much, and that was just going to be peeking out. So I only have one signature in here, and it is strictly to show you examples. The first thing is that I took, let me see if I can find, I believe the notebook fragments and the off the edge pocket, off the edge pocket, I combined them. So the first of it's on off the edge pocket. Sorry, trying to keep things straight here. And basically what that is to just literally, it is a die, and it shows you how to make pockets. And you're supposed to put it on off the edge of your page. Wasn't that brilliant? Well, I took that, and this is one side of the pocket, and I made it into a little journaling space. This is the fragments dies, sewed it up here, and then collaged a little bit. Used one, of course, I have to use glazes just to pop some color out. But I flipped it over and made this is a collage area, and made this into a pocket. I used the specimen slide, 3/4 of the specimen slide, part of the rub-ons, and that rub-on was connected to this rub-on and a bottom portion of this style rub-on, and I just cut it. That's the great thing about rub-ons. You can take just the words, you can take the full rub-on, you can just take a part of the rub-on right here and tear it off or cut. I just wanted that postal and the postmark, and so why not put it on top of the glazed leaf? Now remember, you cannot put a rub-on onto a slick surface. You have to either do one of the two things. You have to rough the smooth surface up with some sandpaper and then rub the rub-on on, or cover the smooth surface or just the area of that smooth surface with some gel medium, some collage medium, the distressed collage medium, let it dry, and then put the rub-on on. One of those two things, because that smooth surface needs some tooth. It needs some type of to adhere on that rub-on onto your surface. So that's what I did. I just sanded it. That was the easiest for me. And I just put that rub-on on. I absolutely love rub-ons. Rub-ons are my jam. That and turning everything into vintage. And so I made that specimen card into a tuck pocket, added a little bit of collage, put a photo behind that. That was another reason. Coffee dyed just a little bit of the paper, because that paper's from, all the papers from David's new paper pack. And then this is also one of his dies of the fragment notebook fragments, and it just sticks out like that, flips over. Isn't that so cute? So then this next page underneath the flip pocket, off the page pocket, I took this portion, stamped it, glazed the paper clip die and made it into an upside down pocket. I like to do that too. And this is just the library card stamp, the dyed from the fragments, and stamp some in different colors, and then use a leftover rub-on right there. That's just a portion, hopefully, maybe there we go. It was just a portion of a rub-on. I wanted that, and I just put it on. Yeah. However, before you put rub-ons, here's another thing on rub-ons. I have a hard time putting rub-ons on photos. It depends on the paper. So there again, sand or put a little bit of collage medium onto wherever that rub-on, you would want to put that rub-on on your photo, like if it's off the edge or in a corner, and then adhere that, because sometimes the rub-ons may or may not, depending on the paper that you have your photos printed on. That's another thing. So just FYI. Next page, I made the other half of the off the edge pocket, flipped the top up. I flipped it up and adhered it. So I flipped it up, stamped, made it into a pocket, did a little bit of collaging there. And of course the leaf has glazes on. This is just another piece. I just wanted that little October, put a little paper clip there, and then made this into a nice big, you could put a full 4x6 picture behind there. I just made it into a long tag. And of course, coffee dye. Love my coffee dyeing. And made it into a nice little pocket. So you have two pockets on that page. And this other part of the page, so you can kind of see it is different levels of, or at an angle. It's not all the same of coming out. I folded this back page at different, I just folded it different. I wanted the underside a little peeking out, and you can see why. You can just see it here. So this one, I made it into like a little notebook, sort of, using the fragments of the notebook fragments dies. I made this first top into a pocket, coffee dyed, yes, I just splattered upon, used the photo from David's ephemera, used a piece of my packaging that I alcohol inked, sewed that on because it is a slick surface. Glue sometimes just doesn't like to be adhered on slick surfaces, so I just adhered it by sewing it and made that tuck spot. But then I also used the rub-ons on the back, on the front here, underneath the dragonfly. It's just another way of how to use. The Where Wings Wander is from, I fussy cutted that out from the stamp that goes in on one of the stamps, and I can't remember which one it came from. But I just cut apart that stamp. Loved that. So I flipped this open, and so there's a journaling area. Used the rub-ons on either side. And I'm going to take this. And I made this shape is, I fussy cutted this shape out because this is of a stronger acetate. This is not packaging. This is just of a little bit thicker acetate because sometimes that packaging tears really easy. So I just used a stronger acetate. I love keeping, don't we all like to keep things? But I love to keep packaging because you never know in what form you may need to use it. And of course, I use the ticket die on both of these and turn this into a pocket page. Some rub-ons, part of the stencil, and you have a pocket, and then you can journal right where on the opposite. Hinged it with some fabric. I also would suggest always use fabric hinges rather than paper, depending on what you're going to be using it for. I knew possibly this could be, I had the fabric. This is basically scrap pieces of fabric anyway. Did the same, a journal page and a page for a picture. Now, these pictures are pretty small because I used Devid's ephemera pack of pictures in his ephemera book. Collaged, used that beautiful rub-on the top after I've sewed and collaged everything, glazed and collaged everything together. Just give you another fairly big room to put maybe a 2x3 picture or 2x2 picture, depending on where you glue it down to the page. But another, so sometimes the rub-ons are underneath, sometimes they're just separate, and sometimes they're on top of a collage. Yeah, it's so easy. Another area of journaling, and this is where I just really wanted to showcase a picture that you can set down. This is the back page. I'm going to hold this up. The dots are literally glazed over on top of the coffee, dyed on Devid's paper, his background paper. And so I just used, and it was the antique linen on the glaze, just to really kind of give that that stencil just a pop. I really thought it was just and it pops the blue, and then it showcases the photo. And you could put this whole shape as a shape of the photo, but I had wanted to use Devid's photo out of his ephemera pack. Just a little collage. And of course I use some of my faux vintage tape that I made. You'll see little snippets of that all throughout the journal. And then I flip it open, and there is another pocket page. And this can hold a big photo. I just used one of Devid's photo. Coffee dyed the back. Some used, I see here I cut that piece of rub-on and used the other upside down right here because it really didn't matter. Another piece, and I just brought this from my own stash because then I glued it. I glued that one of the labels that were in the ephemera pack into there, and that really worked well. And then I just did some stamping in different colors, colored in using some distress pencils and on the butterfly, and just made a beautiful, and it's a nice big piece, or nice big area that you can put a bigger photo. Hope this is giving you all kinds of ideas. And so the back cover, by this time I had a lot of leftovers because this is the second journal that I wanted to use as a project and showcase David's new collection of the beautifully worn collection. And I just had all of these pieces on my desk. So it's like, why not? Let's make it into a collage and a pocket. This is the back of, same as the front cover, but I'm going to really kind of bring it up close. I wanted to say this piece right here, I wanted to showcase there is a postal stamp. This is a piece of just a strip, and then I made a notch right here using my envelope punch. There are many videos on YouTube to showcase how to do that with the envelope that we are Memory Keepers envelope punch, but I just wanted to have this kind of pop out. And of course you can see the rub-ons, and I did layer a rub-on onto rub-ons. You can do that too. Then I used the leftover specimen slide on another piece of leftover, I'm not sure what this was from, but it was from, I think it was a notebook fragment. And there were 2 other notebook fragments in there that were left over. And of course I had this already cut out. And then the leaves, and I had an extra leaf here. And then of course I just added some rub-ons, butterflies, the steampunk cogs. Love it. And of course the leaves. I love incorporating botanical, even if it has nothing to do with your picture. That theme is just an added visual element that is just really nice. You don't have to always keep the theme, have all botanicals. You can have a steampunk and a botanical and a label and, you know, whatever into, and it just makes a nice, the color in the background. I wanted the forefront, I want this to be the focal. That's why I added a little bit of cheesecloth, dyed cheesecloth. And of course my stamp is down there to say it's beautifully worn. And it will house a full size 3x5, 4x6 picture. So that is it. Just to really showcase small, I'm going to pan out here. There we go. And just to showcase how I did it on this beautifully extra large, I love that, extra large passport journal. And love to, you will see how other people have used the same collection, but wait until I will be doing another video because I have still so many scraps, and I am planning to make a separate video on how to use those scraps in a really unique way. So stay tuned to that. Like and subscribe down below and let me know what you liked about this journal. It's kind of a short video, but that's okay because I really wanted to showcase some pertinent things. So thanks for coming along, and until next video, take care. Bye-bye.